Welcome back, busy bees! My name is Kate Wexell, and this video is part of my Girl Scout Gold Award project entitled Project Pollinator, which is meant to educate the community about the importance of bees and other pollinators. The big question today is, what is a native bee? We see so many headlines in the news today about the bee population declining, but this fails to specify what kind of bees. Some sources say that honeybees are not rapidly declining, but native bees are. Other sources say that all bees alike are decreasing, but how can you differentiate them? Well, honeybees are actually not native to North America. While honeybees are present in many locations in North America since they were brought over from Europe in the 1600s, the vast majority of bees in the United States are what we call native bees. Now, by native bee, I don't mean it is a specific species like the honeybee or leafcutter bee. A native bee is exactly what it sounds like. It is a bee that is native to North America and didn't originate elsewhere. Since these bees have been on this continent for many years, they are able to pollinate most crops that are also native to North America. This is why it is important to be able to differentiate the 4,000 native bee species from the honeybees. Each type of bee has a very distinct role in its ecosystem and specific plants that it helps to pollinate. There are a few important differences between the native North American bees and the honeybee. You can read the list on the Dickinson County Conservation Board website, but I'm going to summarize their points. First of all, we typically picture bees to live in hives, but many bees do not live in groups. Honeybees are the archetypical social bee, meaning that they function as a colony, but most native bee species are solitary, so they only group together to mate before parting ways again. In fact, the only social bee species in the entire United States is the bumblebee species, and that's only a seasonal arrangement. Another difference is their habitat. Once again, people picture bees to be living in honeycombs, but that's also a distinct trait of the honeybee. Most solitary bee species build nests in the ground, create cavities in wood, or burrow into hollow stems or holes in trees. Whenever you see old fallen trees on the ground, or holes in the trunk of a tree, that could be the home of a bee. One thing that many people would be pleased to hear is that because most native bees do not have a central home like a hive, they either don't have stingers or their stingers wouldn't penetrate human skin. And even if they did, since they have nothing to protect, they aren't compelled to sting somebody to begin with. So think about that. Most bees that you encounter can't even sting you. Unfortunately, though, this also means that since bees aren't working on large production, they usually specialize in specific plants. Honeybees are attracted to almost any flowering plant, but native bee species are usually attracted to a few specific plants, and they hatch around the same time that these flowers are in bloom. About 30 to 50% of all native bees are specialized. Sadly, this means that if the bee dies, the plant goes away, and vice versa. A couple of different types of bees in North America are miner bees, leafcutter bees, mason bees, carpenter bees, and foraging bees. Miner bees burrow into the ground and create tiny tunnels in the soil. They create these tunnels to hold one baby, and they provide the new bee enough food to eat until adulthood. Miner bees usually pollinate cranberries, tomatoes, blackberries, asparagus, persimmon, clover, and raspberry. Both the mason bees and leafcutter bees take advantage of holes already made in trees or hollow stems for their nesting. They create chambers for nurseries within these holes, although mason bees seal the entrance, while leafcutter bees just line their tubes. Mason bees typically pollinate tube-shaped blossoms like mints, willows, and legumes, while leafcutter bees pollinate alfalfa, carrots, and blueberries. Carpenter bees, on the other hand, use their jaws to create holes in wood. They will drill holes in surfaces such as people's decks and other wooden structures. They pollinate eggplant, tomatoes, and other vegetables. Foraging bees are mostly specialized bees such as the squash bee, blueberry bee, and azalea bee. They pollinate a wide variety of plants, but they will usually make 3,000 visits to flowers in a day. Overall, native bees are incredibly important to different crops in the United States, and knowing the differences between them better helps people to understand why it is essential to protect them in our communities. If you're interested in learning more about native bees, please check out the other videos on my YouTube channel, view my website, which is entitled Project Pollinator 766007682.wordpress.com, and subscribe. My website also offers more information about my project, along with different educational activities and descriptions of events that are taking place. Got to go, busy bees!